So yeah, thanks everybody for joining our Young Professionals panel. My name is Anis Ben Arfi. I'm part of the EDA chapter. I got inducted in 2020, and today I'm hosting the Young Professionals panel. So let me just pull up here the bios. Okay, yeah, I have them ready. So Alberto Tam Young is with us today. He graduated from University of California, Riverside in 2016, and he joined Applied Medical, where he works as a senior electrical engineer, focusing on biomedical devices. We have also Dr. Quentin Bonds, who graduated with a bachelor from University of Alabama and with a PhD from University of Southern Florida. He currently works at NASA and focuses on remote sensing for geoscience applications, and also have joined with Skylar Nix. He's coming from Albuquerque. He joined after graduating actually from high school. Skylar joined the U.S. Army Military Intelligence Systems as an integrator and maintainer. And after leaving the military in 27, he worked with different tech companies while finishing another degree at the University of Arizona. He currently works at Dell, focusing on network and cybersecurity. Skyler is based in Albuquerque, as I said, New Mexico. So, guys, I'll let you just have a quick discussion among each other. Tell us about the transition between academia, your degree, your studies, and all that to your first job. How was that, and what did you expect? How was the full transition? How smooth was it, and all that? If you can share that with us. We can start with Alberto if you want.
Awesome. Sure. Thanks, Anis, for the introductions. Um, yeah, I think the transition, I think it was really interesting to me. I guess a little bit more on my backstory. I was an international student here in the United States, and I also attended community college. So I had a lot of times where I had to restart my network, my community within those like local geographic areas. And so I think that transition was a similar experience to that as like graduating from high school and going to a different environment, going from a community college to a 4-year university, which was a different environment. And same thing, right? When I graduated from college, I went to a company, and this was industry, and it was a new environment. A lot of those techniques and like strategies were transferable as I went from one environment to another one, where I just tried to learn and absorb as much as I could, as fast as I could. And once I got assimilated on that new environment, everything just went a lot smoother by keeping like an open mind, being open to establishing new relationships and stuff like that. So that would be, I think, the short version of my experience about transitioning from academia to industry or like becoming a working professional. I'll let other people pitch in too. So since we have a lot of panelists today.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Amritesh, for joining. I'll introduce you in a second. So we'll move to Skyler and Quentin, then I'll get back to you, Amritesh. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Anis. So, as you mentioned, I don't have a traditional trajectory in terms of my career. So, I actually started in the military, which really isn't industry, but it's a little closer to industry than academia. So, the challenge for me was a little bit different, but it was still a challenge, starting off, getting some experience, having some career success, and then deciding to take a different direction where I knew the education would be important. So I actually kind of transitioned from industry back into academia in a sense. And, I would say that it took me a while to do. When I left the military, I think it was another 5 years before I started pursuing my studies again. And, it took some personal courage. And I think that that's necessary for everyone who's making a transition, whether it's from one career field to another or one industry to another. I think you have to believe in yourself, believe in your abilities to adapt, to learn, and I found a lot of success, pursuing my degree programs. So once I was in it, I knew that that I could finish, and I just had to overcome that challenge. So, I think I would counsel students near graduation to embrace their ability to learn, apply that skill in industry, learn and volunteer for everything. You may be hired as a programmer or an electrical engineer, but you need to know where the CEO or the vice president sits, what's going on with your team members, what the team across the street at your competitor is doing, and where the supply room is. So I always tell everyone after the first 2 weeks, you need to have your organization wired top to bottom. And I do it at every new job, so it can be done. Have that confidence.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'll quickly introduce Elizabeth and Amritesh, who just joined us. Elizabeth Farkas graduated from University of California in San Diego with a bachelor in electrical engineering in 2019, and she joined Apple as a software engineer working on a variety of customer technology products. And also Amritesh Ray with us today. He graduated with his bachelor from Ohio State and PhD from University of Texas at Austin in 2012 and 2019, respectively. His work focuses on memory chips and design and optimization and semiconductor manufacturing processes. Amritesh worked with Micron in Idaho and is currently working with Intel in Oregon. So, just to reiterate the question to you guys, we're asking about the experience and the transition between industry to academia. What were the challenges in this transition? How smooth was it? And also, which advice you want to give to current students uh, graduating and transferring into industry? So we can go with Amritesh.
Sure, Anis. Can you hear me? Okay,
Yes.
wonderful. Thank you for the introduction. One small clarification: I no longer work on memory chips. I moved on from memory chips to processors. That's my current, crux of the work here at Intel. But yes, to answer the question, so I spent quite a lot of time in academia. I did my master's and PhD at UT Austin, and while I was there, I worked as a graduate research assistant, which is a funded position. You do research on funded projects. So in academia, I got to explore, and my background, my field is semiconductors. So as you may know, the mainstream semiconductor technology, what we pursue in the industry, is based on materials that we know quite well now, like silicon and silicon germanium. But in academia, the main push is behind exploring new types of materials, novel materials that can bridge the gap and close some of the key performance gaps that today's silicon, for example, cannot close. Right. So we were exploring a lot of new materials. So in academia, I felt like we had a lot more flexibility in terms of doing novel things, going out there, exploring, taking a lot of risk. Right, we would do experiments that would fail most of the times, whereas in the industry, things are a little bit more streamlined. You don't get to do anything that you want, right? You have to do something within the overall scope of the project, right? Because at the end of the day, you have to get a product out, and you have to get a product out with quick turnarounds, right? As you may have heard today, there is a big competition between Intel, TSMC, and Samsung, right? Intel is trying to regain its leadership back in the semiconductor industry. So we have a very tight timeline now over the next 4 or 5 years, where we have to, really, I like to quote our CEO, we are all working at a torrid pace. So pace is that one key factor that I realized was a big change from academia and stepping into industry. So although I worked at Micron for a little over a year, the pace in the semiconductor industry in general is very fast. It's, it goes at breakneck speed. So that is one key change you will encounter as you, and at least that what I encountered when I moved from academia to industry, right? That said, the other point I wanted to make was, the scope of the projects, right? Industry, it's more streamlined. Academia, you can explore a wide variety of research topics. So that is another key change, I would say. Number two, so pace and the scope of the experiments and the projects that you work on. And for me, one of the most challenging aspects was, getting used to the space. It took me some time. It was not easy. You need some time to acclimatize to the pace and, just get used to it on a day-to-day basis, right? That said, I'm not saying that you do not get your breaks, you do not get your work-life balance. That's something you have to figure out to manage eventually, right? You learn along the, on the course of the job. What was the other part of the questions?
And what advice would you give to students transitioning?
Industry is a lot of fun. It may seem daunting at first. Whatever I said just now, the pace and, the fast speed that we go at might seem a little bit, scary, but honestly, it is not, right? It's a lot of fun. You get to interact with a wide variety of people, cross collaborations, and you know that at the end of the day, you're working on products that will see the light of the day in a year or two, that will go into everybody's personal PCs, mobile phones, data centers. So there's a different kind of thrill involved in the industry. So just be mentally prepared. Before transitioning from academia to industry, one strong advice I give to everybody is try and get an internship while you are in academia, while you're doing grad school or undergrad. Try and get an internship in a company that you like, right? That 2 or 3 months of experience can really give you an idea of what industry is like. You will get to know people. You will just get a feel of the pace of how things work, at least talking of the semiconductor industry. And then you can really decide for yourself if academia is more suited for you or industry is more suited for you, right? That's what I did. I did an internship, and that really helped me figure things out for myself. So really get that internship is one strong piece of advice
Awesome.
I would give.
Thanks, Amritesh. So, Elizabeth, do you have something to add to that?
Sure, yeah. I'll just add a few quick points. I agree with a lot. I think getting an internship definitely helped me, because I remember when I had my first job, I was just like, oh, this is just like an internship. I just have a little bit more responsibility now. So makes complete sense. I think that what I noticed that was a difference between academia and industry is maybe there's just not as much structure. So you have to kind of know what you want, like your career path maybe to look like for the next at least year or so that you can advocate for yourself. Like, okay, what do I want to be working on while I'm at this company? Like, what do I want to focus in? Of course, there's the day-to-day tasks that needs to get done, but there should be some aspect of, also moving your career towards its goal. And your manager can't set out that outline for you. Like when you're in school, there's a schedule and you have to follow it, but you have a little bit more maybe flexibility in terms of what you want to do with your career. So you have to kind of think about what the direction kind of that you're going in, and advocating for yourself and asking people, okay, if I want to be here in 5 years, what do I need to be doing now? And so there's a lot of that. Also, in this kind of the self-starter category still, there's not maybe as many resources for if you're stuck on a problem. You can't just Google everything now if it's an industry secret project or something. So your resources are your coworkers. And so I've found that I've had to just set up meetings with my coworkers one-on-one, people who've been there for a while, and be like, hey, I don't know how this project works, this piece of the code works. Would you mind sitting down for half an hour and just explaining it to me? And that's one way that I have to get a knowledge transfer. Let's see. I definitely, I think some of the challenges I see, I would agree that the pace is a big difference as well. Products have to get out, and you have to sort of meet your deadlines. I guess that's the same in college. You have to you have to submit your assignments on time. And another challenge I notice is like priorities can be changing, which is a little frustrating. So like maybe you're working on this project and then all of a sudden your manager says, oh, well, now we have to work on this thing. And so adapting to that is a little challenging at first because I don't know, it's kind of like a shock, but you get used to it. I think that's the main thing I can say is just like understanding that that's a thing, and you know, hopefully it doesn't happen too often, but not to like take it as a bummer. It's just the way that industry works. Different things need to change so the company can reach their goals for their own reasons, and so it's just understanding that. So yeah, I guess my advice to you is being aware of all of those things, and like I said, having some sort of knowledge of your career path that you want and advocating for yourself, but mostly to your manager or other higher ups who can help you achieve those goals, and then also making that time to meet with people who've been in the company for a while. Just like picking their brains in general is great. I haven't noticed anyone who like isn't happy to help, because people are just helpful. Most people are helpful. So yeah, just don't be scared of other people.
Great. We'll finish this question with Quinn, and then I'll turn the podium to Shishir, who's actually the main moderator for this whole panel. So Quentin, tell us about your experience transitioning from academia to research, full-time scientist, and the NASA work you're doing. And then Shishir will take it over with question 2. Thank you. Quentin, you're on mute. Still cannot hear you now. Yeah, this
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. All right, cool. So I agree with all of the panelists. I was about to say Pace and Mitesh. One thing that advice, so I don't think I would share much different except for 2 pieces of advice that I would give. Number 1, be very good at what you do. You have the opportunity in graduate school and undergraduate to, just like Elizabeth said and all the other colleagues, take internships. I work for NASA now. I think I interned at 3 NASA centers before I actually got a job, and I took 2 or 3 other internships. I had like 6 internships. While you're there, don't look at it as you're getting a degree to get a job. Look at it as I'm working on my professional skills, or I'm working on my professional training. And so you want to learn how to use the tools. I worked on AFM microscope. I worked on all types of things. Some of them I never touched again from that internship. And so I'm going to read you a quote from Elon Musk. So everybody got mad at Elon Musk because of this, but this is when he was talking about remote work. He says, anyone who wishes to do remote work must be in the office a minimum of 40 hours or depart Tesla. And basically says it's going to fire you. This is less than we ask of factory workers. If there are particular exceptional contributors for whom this is possible, I will review and approve those exceptions directly. Moreover, the office must be a main Tesla office, not a remote branch, unrelated to job duties, yada, yada, yada. All right. So in the chat, I want you all really quick, because this is interactive. In the chat, put anything in the chat about what stood out to you. Go. Quickly. In the chat, what stood out to you? We need some interaction here. We took out our days from Apple, NASA, all these different places. All right, I'm not saying anything in the chat. Let me tell you what stood out to me. If there are particularly exceptional contributors for whom this is possible, I will review and approve those exceptions directly. In my career, what I've seen, I see somebody else, Hermitage. What I've seen, everything goes out the door if you good. Every rule goes out the door. Every promotion, timeline, everything goes out the door if you're good. So what I'm saying is, take time in undergrad and grad school and be the best at something. And I'm not saying be better than the next man, but what can you do really well with the least amount of effort, right? So I was going to tell you about my career. I built instruments for undergrad and graduate school, and I built instruments for NASA a number of years. You can Google the snow below, and they did a whole video on my project. They still fly my instrument, but I switched from that branch because I wasn't the absolute best at it. I'm doing something different now. Now I work in the SBR department. I still have a technical project that I don't have time to get into, but I'm working with businesses and NASA now, pretty much deep tech businesses. So this is what I'm saying is just be good at what you do, and you have that opportunity in undergrad and grad school. I've seen people come to my job, come to NASA, 2 or 3 years, even four years younger than me. Now they make more money than me. I'm not saying they enjoy what they do. I'm not saying any of those, but I'm saying the years that you're in school, even if you take 4 extra years, it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. If you're good at what you do, you're going to excel. I'll turn it over to Sher.
Hi everyone, am I audible? Okay, sorry about the glitch. There was some access issues, so I couldn't join in the beginning. I think Anis is gone. Thanks a lot for to him to move this forward. So just a quick introduction about myself. I was able to hear you guys, but I couldn't speak. So I'm Shishir. I work for Renaissance Electronics, and I'm into designing chips for 5G transmitters and base stations. So I'm basically an RF designer, and I got my master's from Arizona State University. I worked in Netherlands at the Philips Research Center before moving here. So that's all, and more. There are questions about the work and stuff as we move ahead. So before moving to the next question, just my 2 cents on the industry academics gap and how to transition. So when you move to industry, the most critical thing or the most crucial part, according to me, was you should know how to use the resources in the company pretty well, be it human resource or how to navigate through their huge pool of knowledge that they have got. That is pretty critical, and a lot of times, if you have got good mentors, they might be able to tell you that. But otherwise, because there will be a lot of things which you don't know, right? And you cannot say that okay, this is something that I don't know. So you have to use your time outside your office hours quite efficiently, and if you know the correct resources, it just helps you a lot. So other than that, yeah, you should be good at something. I totally agree with Quentin. That's a really good piece of advice. So now next question is about the role of IEEE in our career building. We are all associated with IEEE from a very initial stage of our career as students, most likely. So the question is pretty straightforward, that how did IEEE help you to grow and advance your career, and any initiatives in IEEE that you might have undergone, you can explain. So let's start with Skylar.
Thank you so much. IEEE has had a profound effect on my career trajectory and just the skills that I take with me. I had the great opportunity to co-found a student branch at the U of A South and jump into leadership roles head first. The professional section of Fort Huachuca was looking for some new blood, and so they got me to kind of be comfortable with a vice chair position and then quickly yanked the chair out so I could be the chairperson. So I didn't see that train coming, but it was a great experience. And since then, I've found some passion for public policy through the IEEE government relations and continued technical and leadership skills through the Rising Stars Conference. I was an attendee I think in the second year of the conference, and then have been an organizer ever since then. So it's been varied and just really excellent for, continuing to gain skills. I think volunteering is important because we have to send the ladder back down for those, trying to come up to our level and hopefully exceed us someday. So, that's our job as IEEE members, is to use the resources available, but then also make sure that the next generation has the same or even better resources than we had. I get to hang out with the best engineers in the world, and I'm very thankful for that.
All right, cool. That's a nice response. Alberto, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So my involvement with IEEE and how it helped me with my career advancement or where I am right now. I think I've volunteered with IEEE like since college, as I think as you mentioned, most of the panel probably has been involved. But I think that gave me a lot of leadership opportunities, especially while volunteering. And if you think about it, you don't necessarily get those opportunities out there unless you are in a role that allows you to practice those skills. And that could be leadership skills, that could be managing skills, and they're completely different set of things. As the way that I've learned that they're not the same thing. So volunteering has allowed me to put myself on those complex situations like conflict resolution, leading a team, being just a team member on a team, um, trying to work remotely with other colleagues or other volunteers from around the world, even before the pandemic hit. And it has expanded my opportunities to learn from those challenges, even outside of work. So I think that just being able to volunteer has given me, you could say, almost like a job in a sense, by having those opportunities to learn leadership skills and what's the best way to address these challenges and see the outcome firsthand instead of just hearing the stories, because you will probably hear a lot of stories from panelists, from speakers today, or like any event that you go to, and they're great. You should take notes and everything. But if you're a hands-on learner like me, you will also gain a lot more experience from just doing it as you go. So I think that's been the main takeaway from me. I'm still involved with IEEE as a volunteer, as a professional, and there's several opportunities. I'm on Region 6, which is the West Coast of the United States, and I just continue to get more involved with the whole region as well as with conference planning. For example, I'm also involved with the Rising Stars Conference, which that's how I know some of the panelists from today. So there's a lot of opportunities out there to learn from leadership skills and on all of that. And the other keynote is um, I've been able to interact with a lot of senior members and executives. And at first, it's really intimidating, but IEEE actually makes it really easy because you just have lunch on these tables with high-level executives that normally, if you were to talk to your CEO in your company, maybe you'd be more intimidated. But here, you're just chatting about like, oh, what do you do in your free time and stuff like that. So that's been a very awesome experience to go through, and that's something that IEEE can offer to you as well.
Thank you, Alberto. Amritesh, you want to go next?
Hi, Shashir. Yes. So I couldn't agree more with Skylar and Alberto. So I got involved with IEEE early on. Like I believe most of the panelists. That was in my undergrad at the IEEE Ohio State student branch, and that really kickstarted a lot of wonderful things for me. The exposure that you get by just being an IEEE, by volunteering, the teamwork skills. You get to meet a lot of excellent minds from diverse fields within IEEE, right? For example, I was in semiconductors, but I met people who were outside of that particular technical field of expertise. So it's good to meet such people, learn from them, understand their viewpoint, and you build your network of people that way, right? I found some excellent mentors through IEEE. I think in the chat there was a question about how do you find mentors at work, right? So one of the answers was finding mentors is always not as easy, So I think the more you go out, the more you get involved with these professional organizations. It's one way to find mentors who can really guide you whenever you fall in any sort of dilemma in your professional or even personal life. So that is very important. I already talked about the importance of the knowledge that you gain just by interacting with these many people. Then I continued with my volunteering work in grad school all throughout. And one personal example I would like to give here is while I was at UT, I just like Skylar was saying, he founded he was the co-founder of one of the student branches. So in a very similar example, at UT, I had the very nice opportunity to found the graduate student chapter of IEEE. And when I set out to do that, I faced a lot of roadblocks. Simple questions like, why do you want a graduate student chapter when there is an undergrad chapter? A lot of simple questions like that were coming as hurdles. So I was able to, use the IEEE platform and find workarounds to every hurdles that came my way, that got me more involved with a lot of other people at IEEE. And today the graduate student chapter at UT has really taken off. There are a lot of volunteers. Graduate students have their own group organizing events that cater to their needs and interests, and they are collaborating with the undergrad chapter to organize co-events and things like that. So I learned a lot of one key lesson I would say that I learned with this exercise is it really gave me the chance to know that if you really set your mind to something, you can do it. You can find your way around it, right? And how did that happen? Through just meeting a lot of wonderful people at IEEE, connecting with them, collaborating with them, seeking help, and just finding your way through all of it. Today, I've always been a very active IEEE volunteer. I have been part of the Rising Stars Conference, contributing in small ways here and there. While I was in grad school, I was also serving as the IEEE Region 5 Young Professionals Chair, which was a wonderful experience, just meeting so many wonderful people, getting to organize events, getting to work with everybody, being invited as, guest speakers here and there. It just gives you a lot of insight into yourself. You learn a lot about yourself. You gain, again, like I said, teamwork skills, collaboration skills, self-confidence. So it's a great platform, just go out there, get involved. Volunteering takes a lot of effort. One might say, why do you need to do all this? I have my work life, it's so busy, there are personal lives, but you really have to go out, step out there, because it really teaches you a lot of wonderful skills. And you will only realize that once you start doing it. So just take that leap of faith, go out there, volunteer, and IEEE has all the resources. It can give you everything that you need. It's just a great platform to go out and volunteer. And today, I think a part of the question is, what are my current IEEE activities? So over the past few months, I took a little bit of a break because I moved from Boise to Portland and, underwent a lot of, changing cities, changing homes. So that, I was just waiting for me and my wife to get settled in out here in Portland. And now that has happened, I'm trying to grow my roots here by starting to, reach out to people and getting involved here in the Oregon section. So yes, I look forward to, resuming my volunteering journey with IEEE.
All right. Thank you, Amritesh. Elizabeth, you want to go next?
Sure. Yeah, I totally agree that IEEE has completely impacted both my college experience as well as my career. Totally agree that about the leadership aspect. I was involved with IEEE all 4 years. When I was at UC San Diego, I started as secretary and then I ended up as chair. So it was really fun to work up, and I didn't even see that leadership ability in myself. So I definitely gained a lot of confidence in myself through that, through just volunteering, showing up, getting to know people. I highly encourage anyone who's doubting themselves to just apply and just do it, because you'll learn a lot. And you learn so much by being involved as a volunteer in anything, in any sort of event planning as well. It just gives you a scope into budgeting and what do people actually want at this event, and just things that once you're in industry, your managers and higher ups appreciate that you have that perspective as well into what they're dealing with. And I think that just talking about the leadership aspects through the volunteering right now, at least the companies that I've applied to, or the companies that I felt that I had a best fit in, they always asked about it. It was on my resume. My IEEE volunteer experience was on my resume, and they would ask what has this contributed. And I just noticed that the managers that cared about it were the managers that fit best with me, and so I really appreciate that. And let's see, I was also thinking about this, how do you find a mentor question that's in the chat here, is Firstly, I think I found a lot of my first mentors in college through my older IEEE friends. I would say a lot of them are not quite, they can't give you the same mentorship as someone who's been in industry for 20 years, but they still give like great advice 1 or 2 years out, you know, like, oh, how do I apply to grad school, or how do I do this class? So I would say if you're a student now, like reach out to your older students. That's a great way. But then also once you you know, start getting involved with IEEE and maybe go to your section meetings or start going to conferences, things like that, you'll meet people in industry who are 5, 10, 20, 30 years outside of where you are, and they can give you great perspective into what they're doing. And it's just a great way to be able to be curious about what other people are doing. So let's say you have absolutely no idea what you want to do with your degree. You're going to meet people who are doing power or, you know, programming and just all these different things if you come out to these IEEE events, and you can just be curious about and be like, hey, what do you do for a living? How did you get there? And maybe just through talking to these people, it'll help you discover your passion, as well as if you find someone that resonates with you, you know, maybe that's a potential mentor you can seek out. In terms of how I'm still involved with IEEE, I'm with Alberto on the Rising Stars Conference, which happens every year specifically for young professionals. And that's been a great way to still stay involved with IEEE and, you know, still meet all these people, which I love doing, and going out to different conferences and staying up to date with the industry trends. It's just lots of benefits, but I'll stop there for now.
Thanks, Elizabeth. So basically, join IEEE and find a mentor. So Quentin, I'm sure you have got lots.
Yeah, I'll be quick. Yeah. Opportunity. Start off with a true story. As a matter of fact, just the social. I met Sher at an IEEE conference. I met Amin at an IEEE conference. I met everybody that I have, you know, kind of like lifelong, not everybody, but a lot of my lifelong friends I met at an IEEE conference. True story. I was applying for graduate school. I didn't like the school I was going to. That year I got double-digit rejection letters, so I stopped counting around 12, okay? Somebody, I think it was a young lady, I think she was from my IEEE chapter at the school I was going to. She came to us, I remember it was one night, we were studying late, we were at the engineering building, and she was like, yeah, it's a Society of Women Engineers conference downtown. I was like, men can't go to that. She was like, yeah, men can go. So I went, I hated the school. It was not a good point in my life. So I'm networking really hard. I'm trying to go to grad school, trying to get a job. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm transparent. I was flirting with some girls at the conference. So, you know, new girls in town, you know, I believe in having fun, you know. So I was flirting with some girls from the conference, and she was like, yeah, I go to USF, I do R for microwave. I was like, oh, really? Because that's what I knew what I wanted to do. And so, you know, we exchanged numbers. We never dated. She ended up being my study partner. And, you know, here I am with a PhD from double-digit rejection letters from going to an IEEE Society of Women Engineers conference. And now I got stuff flying in space and all types of different things, right? Another thing, somebody asked in the chat about scholarships. I learned about IEEE MTTS fellowship at an IEEE conference, won the fellowship. That's another example. So I would say network like a madman or mad woman or whatever you want to call yourself once you get to these conferences. And it's fun. Like, you know, the people that I met, I can call anybody from my IEEE society 6 months a year, and they're going to talk to me like we've been talking every day.
Well, totally agree. You guys have covered most of the points, and for me also, IEEE, it's all about networking and finding out, you know, things which I would have never known. So it just adds to a lot of your perspectives. You get new perspectives in your career, in your life, and that changes your perception. You know, for me, it's like it's like a part of exploring myself. So it just gives you exposure, connects you with a lot of people. As Quentin rightly said, the connections that I made in IEEE, they were like pretty strong, and it's a personal connect. I can call anybody anytime. So it's a lot more than just attending conferences and, you know, networking people. And about mentors, I think my take is slightly different. Mentors find you, and you don't find mentors, in a way that this is applicable to people in the industry who have been working for a very long time, like the veteran guys. If you show active interest and you ask the right questions, a lot of times these people are attracted towards you, so the mentors kind of find you. And it doesn't work like, oh, he's my mentor. It just becomes pretty natural, and then you seek to that person, and it also develops a very strong tie. So moving on to next question. So we have seen that with the pandemic, the whole industry has sort of evolved and it has changed. Especially the tech aspect of the industry has gone a very rapid advancement. So which makes us think that what might happen to our industries in the coming short-term future. The after effects of pandemic and the long-term effects of it. So the next question is, how do you think is your industry going to evolve in the let's talk about the short 2 to 3 years. And before that, you guys can to start with, say, like, how does a typical work day look like? Because we all come from different fields, different we do different kind of works, although it's tech. So what do you do at work, and then how do you think your industry is going to evolve? So starting again with Skylar, let's go in that order.
Thanks so much. So, currently, we're all still, at least most knowledge workers are still dealing with kind of some sort of dynamic between working from the office, working from home. As usual, I have a unique experience when, pandemic restrictions started. I was working through the office for that first year. Because I was working with special equipment that was just on site, right? It wasn't accessible remotely. And so I was the only one going into the office, and it was like a ghost town. So I guess getting over some loneliness initially. And then my subsequent 2 roles have both been working from home, where I actually wanted, a little in-person contact to go into the office and chat, and then nobody wanted it, right? Everyone wanted to, err on the side of safety, and it was organizational rules and things like that. So, became very adept at the work from home thing, and then now, of course, a lot of organizations are calling everyone back to the office. So it's been this roller coaster, right? I think in terms of where it's going, I think, and I know this addresses kind of like the next question, but, we need to get to flexibility, and that's, on everybody's part. I think we spend way too much time in meetings in my industry, which would be kind of like information technology and services. I try to get meetings down to basic elements, and that way, kind of frees up more time for the actual work that needs to be done. I think the tech workplace is going to need to be more integrated into other business units. So, that there's synergy within product offerings and portfolios. And, along with that comes a need for better communication, right? We're also focused, a lot of times tech folks, we're so focused on the minutiae of what we're doing on a day-to-day basis in a technical respect. But are we looking at how well we're communicating within our team, how well our team communicates to the team over in the next business area? So I think that we need to make large strides in that direction. Thanks.
Okay, so before we proceed, we are going to have a dedicated questions on work from home and what were the challenges you face. So this aspect, I just want to focus on where do you think your industry is heading towards? What would be the implications of COVID or in general, because technology is advancing at such fast pace, that where do you see your industry evolving? So let's focus on that question, and then we have the next section on COVID. So Alberto, next.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't think we've taken too much time on what each of us do on a daily basis. So maybe it's a good place to start there. So I'm a design engineer on the electrical engineering team here at Applied Medical. And what I do is a lot of circuit design, prototype development, very hands-on stuff. And there's hardware development as well as firmware development involved in that. So in that sense, you could say that I'm this intersection between like I'm on the healthcare medical device industry, but I'm also on the industry of like electrical applications, electrical engineering design and circuits. So on the side of healthcare and medical devices, we are all continuously looking to improve the quality of our healthcare system and how we can provide services as well as procedure improvements. So I think that's going to keep going, whether there was COVID or not. If anything, COVID just highlighted one portion of that setup. And in general, you've already probably seen a lot of telehealth, as well as technological improvements on surgical devices and all of that, which is kind of like where my company concentrates on. Now, on the circuits and design engineering type of thing of applications, and so I think the side effect of COVID, or in general, what you've seen globally, is that you've probably seen the silicon shortage and component shortage type of challenges that a lot of designers and manufacturers are facing nowadays. So I think on the like 2-3 year term, what I've been seeing on the past couple of years as well is that your skill of being able to learn new technologies, being able to adapt really quickly, and not just be fixed to, oh, this is what used to work, so we should just keep using this. The ability to be flexible and learn those new technologies and being able to talk to other people to learn about these other technologies is really important. And not being just stuck on like the always. So I think that's a critical skill as you move forward. Again, be cautious because you can move really fast and fail really fast. But you can also move really fast and bring your team along with you, like those senior engineers, all that experience, and do it the right way. So that would be my take on industry changes through COVID.
Thanks, Alberto. Amritesh, what do you think about the semiconductor industry that we are in?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me give you a quick answers to the two-part question. So what does my typical workday look like? So just a very high-level overview. So I work as a process integration engineer at Intel. And it's a very experimental, hands-on work. So think of like a chip, right, that we have on a die, all the millions and millions of transistors connected to form circuits. So there is a design for that. And our job is to make sure that we realize that design on a silicon wafer, die by die, wafer by wafer, right? So so the way it starts is we start with a blank silicon wafer, then it goes through thousands and thousands of steps before we get to a stage where we can electrically test the components, right? And ultimately, at the end of the day, we have to design or come up with chips that perform at a given set of specs, that have a particular speed. Think of something like laptop chips. They all have a rating of 2.3 gigahertz, 3 gigahertz, things like that, right? So how do we realize that on a silicon wafer at the circuit level, at the individual component level? So think of it like the thousands of steps that each wafer goes through is broken up into different segments. And as a process integration engineer, you own parts of that segment that you are responsible for. So when it comes to your segment, you work on the processing steps on a silicon wafer to make sure your part is healthy before it moves on to the next segment. So it's very experimental work. We run a lot of experiments day in and day out. We design experiments, we launch silicon wafers, and everything is done remotely, right? The fab is automated. You just crunch things on your computer and things will move in the fab. Then when things get to end of line, you see what the electrical measurements are. How is my device performing? Is it matching or not? If not, you debug the problem. You take a wafer, you cut it. Simple example, there might be an electrical short that is killing your device. So you cut it to find out where that short is happening at the nanoscale. And then you go back and design a new experiment to figure out, okay, what can I do to prevent this titanium metal from shorting with the next titanium metal, right? So it's more about that. And to answer the next part, I think semiconductor industry, I think everybody knows, right? There is a global chip shortage, right? You probably ordered a Tesla or a Rivian and it's backlogged 1 year, 2 years out. And one big reason for that is the or one of the key reasons for that is the chip shortage, right? There's a shortage of chips. So how I see my industry evolving over the next 2-3 years, and I like to give Intel's example for that, right? So Intel recently announced a big fab setup in Ohio, right? That's going to happen over the next 4 or 5 years. We are expanding our facilities here in Oregon, which is our main R&D center. So a lot of that is going to happen to make a balanced and a very geodiverse supply chain for semiconductors, right? So we don't run into a situation as has happened now, where there is a chip shortage, and things are just delayed, and the products that the consumer wants, those products are delayed, right? So I think that is going to happen on all fronts. Intel is doing it. Other big semiconductor companies that manufacture chips like TSMC, Samsung, everyone is pouring in money, to build new facilities here in the US and across the globe. So that is one big change that I see happening, that is already happening and will continue to happen over the next 2-3 years.
All right, thanks, Amritesh. I think I agree. The hegemony that few companies had on the fabs, it's going to break, and it's going to be more diversified, I guess.
Yep.
So Elizabeth, you're next.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So just to quickly say what I do. So I'm a Bluetooth software engineer at Apple. I don't know if there are any software engineers in the crowd here. So my day-to-day is, I mean, it kind of depends. I actually don't have too many meetings probably because I'm newer. I've been in like 2 years. I think my manager's pretty good at trying to keep us out of meetings if we don't have to be there. So I appreciate that. But a lot of what I do is programming, not gonna lie, or like reading over specs, or probably understanding a new concept. Since when I got into this job, I didn't know a lot about Bluetooth specifically, so I'm still every day learning something new. So maybe I'll be reading some research paper or reading some spec, and that takes time too. But most of the time I'm programming maybe like new features or fixing bugs, stuff like that. What's nice now is that I'm hybrid, so it's Friday, so I'm at work. I'm at home today. I only go into the office 2 days a week. So that's definitely different. In terms of how the industry is changing, I wouldn't say I can tell, besides the whole like work from home hybrid thing, which I think we're going to
I think there's a connectivity problem.
Yeah, I think she might have froze.
Yeah, she froze. Okay, Quentin, we'll move to you, and I'll let her answer that in the next question.
So you're asking, what do we do, and you're asking about the how does our industry going
I'm
to change?
asking about what do you do at work, and then how do you think your industry is going to evolve, in the short.
So I actually do several different things. So this used to be my job. I used to design. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes. No. All right. So I used to design instruments for various applications. This was one of the last instruments I worked on. Is a wideband instrument for snow measurement. This is actually in an aircraft while we taking measurements on the instrument we developed. That's it in the top left-hand corner. And I would design myself, and actually my mentor, we designed this instrument from drawing it on the board to flying it on the aircraft. This is like doing a calibration with liquid nitrogen. This is us outside in the field. So we will measure snow water equivalent. So how much water will a snowpack make? And after we take measurements with the aircraft, we actually go down and look at what the guys are doing with the ground truth. They dig holes and they actually measure the snow physically to kind of provide a reference for our instrument. But a few years ago, I think I told you about not being the absolute best. I mean, it's a video. I'll put this video in the chat. If you go to like 2 minutes and 30 seconds, they did like a short blurb on our particular project. I'll put it in the chat before it's up with. But I still feel like I wasn't the absolute best at what I was doing. So I transitioned to the NASA STTR program. It's run out of NASA headquarters. So I actually got 2 offices. I got an office at NASA Goddard, where I was doing the instrument development, and I got an office at headquarters. And with this job, I do quite a bit of speaking. I do a lot of speaking personally as well. When I met a lot of my colleagues at IEEE kind of gave me a platform to speak. So I do a lot of professional speaking on my own, and my job asked me to do it too. But I also have my personal project. It's called Heat Grid. I don't get a lot of chance to work on this, like wireless energy transfer. But most of my days are kind of talking with small businesses about how they could do business with NASA, and talking to our scientists and engineers about how, how businesses can develop technology for NASA. So these technologies that you see me observing, or whatever you want to say in these pictures, small business had a role of playing in it. So I would highly encourage you all to think about entrepreneurship. If you can do, a job for somebody else, you can pretty much be an entrepreneur. And most schools have what they call a technology transfer office, or a technology portal. So for sake of time, I'm not going to keep going on this, but that's kind of what I do. A lot of different things.
Okay, I think we are running out of time, so let's club the last two questions into one, and let's try to make it short. So the last question is, what was the most challenging aspect of work from home? How did you mitigate the challenges it came with, like the stress? Few people were under stress, the time management, the efficiency. How did you overcome that? And moving forward, what do you think can be the best way of working? Do you guys like work from home, or do you guys like going to the office, or what is your personal advice on that? What approach to take? So let's start again, and let's move quick. Skylar, you wanna go first again?
All right, trying to go quick here. So it was really easy for me, being a kind of a sysadmin type, but I can only imagine the difficulty for like recent graduates starting to work in their potentially their first apartment. They get a laptop, an RSA token in the mail, and try to get integrated onto a new team and a new firm. It can be really difficult. I think the expectations have shifted. We can still get everything done, but we need to take time out of the day to go outside. We need to focus on communication more than ever, and we need to be flexible with work hours. Me personally, I make sure to have a dedicated workspace. I bought adjusting legs for my old desk and monitor arms for my desk. That way I have a good work environment. Going forward, I think there will continue to be a hot market for tech talent. Organizations need to figure out their long-term strategy to hire and retain the best talent. I don't see the work from home issue as a dichotomy. I think employees want the flexibility to reconcile their professional and personal lives. If there's a need for on-site work, I'll be on site. If I can work from home and get everything done, then I'm an adult and I can make the call on how to do that. Blanket policies are kind of failing to address the individual, and that's what we're reading a lot about in the news. So first line supervisors need to be trained and empowered to make these teams successful, and we should all be on the same page with that. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Skylar. Alberto, you're next.
Yeah, so I think, again, I'm on a hardware environment, and most of the times, very specialized hardware. So most of those things need to be on site. But I think COVID kind of forced our hand to not really have a choice at some point, which was a great learning experience. So hybrid, we did learn what Skylar said. We learned what we can do, what we cannot do, how we can have that flexibility be a tool instead of just perk or benefit, right? It's like if you can save commute time and use that time to do work, then you save both employee and the company time at the same time. So I think that that's something that we've learned through this process. I think that it's a great tool to have, like the hybrid flexibility. But overall, I think that through the process, I also learned a lot better communication skills. I got forced to be able to communicate some of the testing environments and dissect those thought processes and become a better team member, because sometimes we will have like offset schedules with other team members where some of them would be in the lab and some of them would be remote. And that you'll see that in today's workplace all the time. So I think those lessons learned as we move forward, we'll just fine tune those things, and people who are opposed to it might realize that there is a benefit as well as flexibility to do like hybrid approach type of things. Yep.
All right, cool. Amritesh?
Yeah, to add on to what everyone said, Well, first of all, how did COVID impact my performance? Well, initially it was very challenging. I went through a phase where I thought I wasn't managing my time well, and I'm sure all of us have felt, feeling like just sticking in front of your computer from morning till late in the evening, and just reaching that point where you're feeling burnt out. So I went through that phase. That's the reality. But one thing that I have learned, after those initial 4 or 5 months, is the importance of taking breaks. I think it's very, very important. You have to take your mini breaks, work-based breaks, if you may want to call them that. Take like micro pauses when you're working or you're in meetings, because those things really help you to regain the focus and come back with a fresh mind at the problem you're trying to address. So taking breaks is very important. Travel, go out, obviously in a safe way. Earlier, the situation was not very travel friendly, but take breaks. Take your downtime, because I'm a strong believer that you need to slow down sometimes to speed up. So that's something you should all try and follow. And as far as the last part of the question goes, which mode of working we would prefer, I would definitely vote for hybrid, because pre-pandemic we all used to go to office, and that's a proven way. We all knew that worked, because I think in-person collaboration has its advantages that you don't get in a work from home environment when you're talking virtually. Just the casual hallway chats and small things like that, I think, are very effective. But since the pandemic, we have learned that yes, work from home is manageable. We can accomplish a lot of the things in various job roles sitting right in our homes in front of our computers. So moving forward, I would strongly support hybrid, because I think it will bring in the best of both worlds. That's how I foresee that's going to happen in the future across most companies, if not all, the hybrid mode of work.
Right. Thank you, Amritesh. Elizabeth?
Yeah, I would say the biggest challenge that I had, well, I started my current job completely virtually. I was interviewed virtually and I started virtually, and that was really tough. I think the onboarding process took a little bit longer. It's not that people weren't willing to help, it's just that for some reason that like transfer of knowledge seemed to be a little bit slower, a little bit harder over Zoom. But I just had to stay sort of at it and schedule meetings with people, be like, hey, I don't know how to work this thing. Can we schedule 30 minutes? And then also, we were in like pure lockdown when I started. And so I couldn't just like hang out with the people and like get to socially know them. So it's like this weird aspect of also having to virtually, socially get to know people. So I definitely like hybrid now. At least I've been able to like meet some people on my floor, but that social aspect has still been difficult. The people who were there before like already have their friend group, and it's like I never really got the chance to do that. And so it's kind of finding the people who are also loners out there and like befriending them, which I guess is the same at any, like whenever you start any job, but it's weird because I'm like 2 years in and I don't really know other people. So I would say that's the biggest challenge. That being said, though, I still love the hybrid model. I think being able to like be at home and not have people maybe like coming up to you all the time, you're able to maybe focus better and like plan out your time for that a little bit better. But it's also great to have that in-person collaboration and just like talk to people one-on-one.
All right. Thank you, Elizabeth. Quentin, last words from you.
I agree. It's hard to say. It's really early, but I don't think we should just have people at the office 40 hours for sake of having them at the office 40 hours. But it is a lot of value of people being around each other and talking and sharing ideas in person. So I think it's too early to tell. What I did with my time is I'm able to work out more. I'm not a workout maniac, but I wanted to keep my health in check. These jobs will work you as much as you allow them to. They'll let you stay up there 100 hours in a week if you let them, and they're not going. Most people are not going to say anything. If you're working on a project that has to get out the door at a certain time. For us, the aircraft takes off on a certain date, and the rocket takes us off on a certain date with your instrument, and you got to turn something to nothing. And so I believe in most definitely making sure your health is in check, and that's from taking time to cook right, or even working out like I like to do a few days a week. So those are my final words on hybrid.
And any challenges you faced, Quentin?
Oh yeah. So so I live in DC. Me and my wife, we started out like in a 2-bedroom condo, very nice area, and it just wasn't enough space. So it forced us to like buy a house. So we got this big old house in DC now with like 4 or 5 rooms and not enough, nobody to fill them or whatever. We do Airbnb part of it, so forced us to buy a house. So.
All right, yeah. I guess I do agree, and for me the biggest challenge was the disconnect that I had, to not seeing people, working in your own cocoon for a very long time. It just hampers your efficiency and your mental health in a way. It also depends to a certain extent what kind of person you are and what's the kind of job role you are in. So, for example, Skylar, for him it's very tough to work from home, and for somebody who's more into industry R&D like I am, you can completely work from home and not meet people, but that doesn't help, because you miss that disconnect, the feel that you have when you sit together and talk, and there's no replacement to that. At the same time, you are able to cut a lot of meetings when you work from home, cut the crap that you end up wasting a lot of time. So yeah, I think I do agree that hybrid is a good and then having the flexibility that you could decide which days you are going to work from home. Somebody has to make that call, maybe your manager. If you have a good manager who understands, that these are the days that you can completely work from home, and that works. But yeah, I think 3 days, three days office, 2 days home, or 4 days office, 1 day home is something that I like. So thanks a lot to all of you, and we are already running short of time. I think I took some time in the beginning. There was a glitch, but it was a great interaction, and it was nice meeting you all. And have a nice day. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, nice job, everybody. Nice job,
Thank
Shishir.
you.
Nice to meet everyone.
Thank you, Shishir. Thanks,
nice
everyone.
to meet y'all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.